It's after school, you're hanging out at your apartment, going through rock magazines, and somebody says...
You know, if I had to date any musician or just any famous person, Robert Plant.
Me too. He really, I mean, look at that guy. He was, when Zeppelin was at their prime, he was like a Greek god.
You know, I'm not even talking about the Zeppelin era.
There was something about him.
Okay.
It was
yes.
It was so truly sexy.
Yes.
I'm not afraid to say it. I am secure in my manhood, and I'm not afraid to say Robert Plant was a really, like, he had it. He had it.
But after Zeppelin, he was so diverse. I mean, even in 2007, he was doing bluegrass with Alison Krauss. It just, the amount of like things he loved to study, it just seemed like he was
He did have X Factor. This is like right as his solo career was really taking off, this picture right here with the ice cream cone. So anyway, but he did have some sort of something, some magic. And the fact that Jimmy Page could see that and, you know, brought him into Led Zeppelin, made Led Zeppelin, kind of built it around him. Yeah. There was something about Robert Plant, you know, and then you add his voice in there. I'm going to make
that a new line. There's just something about Robert Plant.
Yeah.
You know,
go
just kind
watch
of randomly and see if anybody knows what I'm talking about.
Go watch The Song Remains the Same. And even though, you know, they have kind of questioned the quality of their performances in that movie, in that concert, you just look at Robert Plant and the way he presents himself, the way he holds his microphone, the way he holds his hands, and the way he talks. You're just like, dude, I don't know what it is about that guy, but he is just like a Greek god, and he's just awesome. He's just awesome. So I'm a huge Robert Plant fan. And so when we found this one, what we're looking at today is we're doing an article from a Circus Magazine, and this is what, when was this? This is 80.
What are we in?
82.
82.
September of 82. Okay. So it's Scorpions, Van Halen. So here we go. They're talking to Robert Plant.
Breastfeeding at that time.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You were a little, I wasn't. I was well past
I normally like to tell Robert whenever he says I'm too young. I like to say, I was still in diapers.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Now I'm going to say, I was still breastfeeding at that time.
That's really funny. Perfect context. Thank you. So we've done one out of this magazine before, haven't we?
Out of this one?
I think we have.
Because
I think we talked about Squeeze, AC/DC, Iron Maiden.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Because, or at least I know I've gone through this magazine before because you had Billy Idol, Squeeze. I think I've mentioned Shooting Star before.
You've probably gone through it a billion times.
Probably.
But we're going to go through this article now.
Anyway, so we're going to jump into this. This is going to be fun. We're going to read this article that's called, what is it called?
Robert Plant Turns a New Leaf.
Robert Plant Turns a New Leaf. This is, and first of all, that picture with him with the ice cream cone is kind of.
I like this one.
Oh, dude, this is so.
Just look at that face.
The classic Jimmy Page, classic Robert Plant right there. It was just rock gods at their peak. Right there. It's so amazing.
That's a good picture.
All right, but before you start reading, tell us who you are, why you're here, what do you do?
Oh, I'm Shelle Crow, and I'm an author, and I'm here because I love hanging out with you and doing this stuff, even though great. I don't know that much about it. But I do know a lot about relationships, and I wrote 3 books on them.
3 books about that.
And you can find them at shellecrow.com if you need help in yours or if you're looking to get into one.
Okay. And we love having you here. You always add fun energy and a big smile, which makes these things much more fun. So we always appreciate having you here. And we also want to thank Digitech for their ongoing support of the channel. You see we have their posters back here in the back. And
Yay!
We also recently added a new prop to our set, which is a Digitech pedal right there.
Are you going to use that? Are you going to bust out your
I've never, we're going to have to plug that thing in sometime and try it. But yeah, they sent this to us to put on our set. And we love Digitech. So it's anyway, we appreciate their support of the channel.
Do you have any stuff of you playing music on the on the
YouTubes?
The YouTube.
There's lots of it.
On you
you can find all kinds of stuff with me.
I've only seen like the new stuff of all the talking about the bands and stuff. But your
I
music?
have like high school. We have stuff for me playing in high school.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, really, I really do.
Okay.
There's all kinds of stuff.
People who climb peaks have got to come back down again. Mountains maintains Robert Plant, and I reckon that the most healthy way to approach music is to be prepared to go up and down as it's necessary. I didn't do my album Pictures at 11 on Swan Song just because I wanted to make more money. The reason I wanted to get another album out was that I was hungry to work.
Okay, this is interesting. So Pictures 11, just to put this in context, on Swan Song, that's the name of the record label. That was Led Zeppelin's record label. Pictures at 11 is basically Robert Plant's first solo thing.
Oh, okay.
And that's what they're talking about here, that he's, Led Zeppelin's been over for a little while now. And so Robert Plant's like, I didn't do this just to make more money. I just wanted to work.
Keep doing it.
So he put out this album called Pictures at 11. By the way, Phil Collins played drums on part of this album, by the way. And I bought it when it came out. I was very young, and I was just kind of like, well, yeah, this is the Led Zeppelin guy, right? I guess I should have this. It was one of those things. I was still kind of figuring things out. I didn't like it at first, but it wasn't long before I loved it. I really do. And I look back at his first album, Pictures 11, and I think it's absolutely awesome. I love so many things on the record. I really, really do. It's great. So anyway, it ended up being a real favorite of mine. So anyway, that's what we're talking about. So this is
how
here.
long after?
2 years.
2 years.
Couple years, yeah.
After that, the former Led Zeppelin frontman is talking in the relaxed confines of his record company office, having motored down to London from his home in Worcestershire.
Yeah.
Casually clad in t-shirt, jeans, and red cowboy boots. That's why I like him.
That's
I've
awesome.
got red cowboy boots. He looks healthy and radiant as radiates a certain degree of youth in both appearance and character. Indeed, although now past his 34th birthday, Robert Plant seems to have few worries about aging. Obviously, my vanity is affected by getting older, but I've had a good run. And I haven't finished running yet, he says.
This is so funny. I mean, think about that. This is 1982. And he's like, I've had a pretty good run. Getting worried about his age. Yeah, well, 50 years ago. I mean, this is again, why this is so interesting to me. Because he's talking about this when he's 34. He's a kid. This is so long ago. This is in the 80s. This is 40 plus years ago he's saying this. You see him now. He's an old man.
And he's still going.
And he's still putting music out.
He's still going on all kinds of stuff. I love it. And I haven't finished running yet, he says. I haven't gone down to a jog, and I don't feel that age has affected my singing. Everybody who actually goes out and does it goes through a lot of changes in style and mentality too. And of course. But you have to level out. If you're happy in what you're doing, you don't even think about whether you're aging or not.
Whether you're getting any older. In my opinion, his voice when he talks about it, doesn't change from he'd lost some of his voice a while earlier than this. He was not able to do any of that Led Zeppelin stuff way, way back. I mean, so when he says that his age hasn't impacted voice, maybe it wasn't his age, but he had not treated his voice very well, apparently, because by the time you got into those late 70s, he was not holding it down the way he was in the studio in the early 70s, the way because I don't think he ever, like, for example, when you listen to the song Rock and Roll in Song Remains the Same, or any live recordings, I don't think he ever does it the way he did it in the studio, because it's really high and it's really powerful. And every time you hear him do it live, he backed it off a little bit. Same thing with the end of Stairway to Heaven. I don't think he ever really, really brought it the way he did, back then when they first did it. So he makes that comment like age isn't impacting him. Like, well, age impacted you a little bit,
though. That
even by now.
I thought that was he one of the recorders, like that they would just do one take in the studio and that was it.
Oh, I'm sure that wasn't true with them.
No, okay, I didn't know.
No, I'm sure that Jimmy Page was meticulous, and I have not read books about those particular sessions, but I'm sure that there were a lot of takes going on.
Okay.
With some of those songs.
Okay, there are those who were around when Zeppelin first started, who may not have any inclination or romance for music anymore. People get to a certain age that they mellow out. The immediacy and sensationalism and urgency is not that important. There are people who are like that. For them, music has slid from prominence. But that's definitely not the case as far as I'm concerned. I may not be able to play anything particularly well, And I can't sing on my own either, but I do love music. I don't sit down and listen for hours and hours on end, but I do have nights with Howlin Wolf. When we were doing this album, I used to come back from the studio and I'd be exhausted. It was like coming back from a tour. I'd be completely knackered emotionally and physically. Then I'd just turn around and have about 4 hours of Howlin Wolf for a bit and rejuvenate. Not because it's
semi-obscurist or anything,
but because it's really moving stuff. Then I might put on Squeeze. The Argy Bargy LP is very full of life. I haven't used anybody. I haven't heard anybody use that term before. Argy Bargy is very full of life.
Is that how it's said? Argy Bargy?
You
know what? I don't know. That's interesting. Very full of life. It's a medicine, and that's what music should be. That's very interesting.
I thought
know nothing
that
about
saying
that.
is like erratic, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's new to me.
Though his roots may stretch further, Plant's musical career dates back to the later half of the 60s, when he spent a good deal of time singing blues in various Birmingham bands. With the recommendation of rocker Terry Reid, he secured the role lead vocalist in Zeppelin, originally called the New Yardbirds. The outfit was performed by guitarist Jimmy Page.
The outfit was formed by guitarist Jimmy Page. So basically, Jimmy Page was in the Yardbirds. They had to kind of, for contractual reasons, they had a bunch of concerts that they needed to fulfill. So they called it the New Yardbirds, and they brought in Robert Plant, basically created Led Zeppelin, but called it the New Yardbirds, and then they called it.
So they started out in bluegrass. He started out in blues.
Yeah. So Robert Plant was. I mean, when you especially look back at that first album, it was so blues oriented. And I think we talked about this on other shows before, where the blues was really created in the United States, exported to England, repackaged with bands like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Rolling Stones, and then sent back to the United States, and then we ate it up.
Yeah.
And Led Zeppelin was largely because Robert Plant, and he mentioned that a minute ago when he was listening to Howlin Wolf, right? Was that who he was talking about just a second ago? Basically, it was all blues, and that's what he was really into, and that's what Robert Plant was really into. So when he got together with Jimmy Page, it was like this perfect fit, and then that's where that first album came from. And then they kind of built on that when you start getting into Led Zeppelin 2, and it had more of this really crazy, cool blues foundation. These blues elements were brought into it, and it ended up, and that was kind of really what launched them. And then they really started, you got into Zeppelin 3 and 4, and more of the experimentation started coming out, and they were but the two of these guys, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, just ended up working so well together. And it's funny that they mentioned Terry Reid, because it was originally, they were talking about him being the singer for this band. Terry wasn't going to do it, so then Robert Plant ends up being, and then that's what led to John Bonham coming into the band. So it was kind of almost accidental that the band this perfect band ended up coming together the way that they did. So, yeah, anyway, interesting stuff.
Following the release of its debut LP in 1969, Led Zeppelin went on to become one of the biggest rock attractions ever. The band produced 7 studio records, and over the years, Page and Plant developed into a prolific songwriting team. Stairway to Heaven has become a hard rock anthem, and Robert himself hardly foresaw the success that arose from that one song.
Yeah, it's funny when you look at that song, how that thing just became such a
iconic,
just such an important song, and they had no idea.
And that's how I was introduced to this band. It wasn't any of their old blues stuff that you're talking about. I don't even know if I've heard a lot of that early stuff. Yeah,
because this song kind of, and this was off of Led Zeppelin 4, Stairway to Heaven. And I know that, a lot of people kind of, it's almost so obvious that people don't want to mention the fact that just because it's so, but here's the thing, you can't get around the fact that it's one of the greatest songs ever recorded.
Right.
It just is. and it's almost trite to just say that, but you go, but it is. It just is. It's that good that it just kind of took over everything. And now it's one of those things that if you're in a guitar store and you start playing the Led Zeppelin lick, it's like, no, you may not play that. Oh. It's funny. It's true. The Stairway to Heaven.
Well, this
stuff.
Is what he says about his success. I was very proud of that composition, he says. But it's really one of those things where two people flutter up to a high point of creativity together.
Yeah.
By 1975, Led Zeppelin had recorded and toured the globe continuously for almost 6 years. In August of that year, though, Robert and his family were seriously injured in a car crash while on holiday in Greece. The singer suffered multiple fractures and was forced to record most of Presence sitting in a chair. 18 months later, Zeppelin was back on the road in the States, but shortly after playing 2 sold-out gigs in Oakland Stadium, Robert discovered that his son, Karac,
yeah,
was seriously ill. 2 days later, his child died.
Yeah, I mean, the tragedies that started happening at this point, from the car wreck that we talked about, then his son Karac dying, and anyway, it was a really, really rough period.
Was that kind of like the end of Zeppelin because of that kind of stuff happening?
Well, they were around for several years after this, but their output dropped off like dramatically. So yeah, they were never quite the same. So Presence, and it's funny because that album, depending on who you talk to, there's some people that think it's one of the greatest albums they ever did, and then there's others that are like, it has some epic music on it. It has some really popular stuff, but some people look at that and think, man, that was kind of the beginning of the end for them. It has a song called Achilles' Last Stand on there, which some people think might be their greatest song. I don't think so. It's a great song, but it was a challenge. But it was a challenging time personally, and I think a lot of that stuff maybe kind of. And then serious drug abuse was coming into the band at that point, and it's the same old story. So
18 months later, here we are. Where did that one? The release of In Through the Outdoor in 1979 coincided with a return to live gigs at Nedworth Park in England. The following year, a lengthy stateside outing was scheduled. Then John Bonham died. To say that Robert was upset would be an understatement. Bonzo was not only a musical partner, but a lifelong friend.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this a minute ago, but when Robert Plant came into the band, John Bonham came into the band because they'd been in a band together. So those two, when Led Zeppelin was being formed, that's why John Bonham ended up in the group. And then you look at those 4 guys together, and Bonham, for many people, is still like the greatest drummer that ever existed. I mean, you put all these 4 guys together, and just like the perfect combination of guys that made some of the most incredible music. So
it's kind of crazy because we've read a lot of these magazines, and you hear, like they like each other, but there's like this discord in the band. And I don't know if it's, maybe in other places it doesn't talk like this, but he doesn't talk that way. It seems so cohesive.
When the band, and part of, you can say that because part of the thing, when it talks about John Bonham dying, when he died, band over. I did a video on this channel a couple months ago where I read an article from back at this period after Bonham died, where a bunch of people were having all these talks about who's going to replace John Bonham. It's going to be this guy, this guy, this guy. But for these guys, I don't know that there was ever really a discussion of who's going to replace him. It was more like, nobody's going to replace him. We're done. We can't go on from here. It was just too important. Where a lot of bands, a drummer leaves or whatever, it's like, yeah, get somebody else,
Yeah.
And for these guys, so the cohesive nature of what they were doing, there was something special about it, for sure.
The media showed little restraint in their coverage of his death, and many started rumors as to who would be filling the drummer's seat. Some journalists even went so far as to suggest that Plant was convinced that Jimmy Page had brought bad karma to the band, owing to the guitarist's interest in the occult. That was a lot of loud rubbish.
That was a load
of rubbish, declared Robert. It was unnecessary, and it upset everyone. I know people not in the public eye who've had similar situations in their private lives. Fortunately, lots of people did come up to me and to the others saying, tell him, Page, not to take any notice because we know so-and-so down the road who was this or that happened to, or who, so-and-so down the road who this or that happened to.
So the point is, Jimmy Page was
it's great print
into Aleister Crowley and the occult kind of stuff, and so there was a lot of people that thought that's why Bonham died, because Jimmy Page was involved with all this stuff, and he died in Jimmy's house and this kind of stuff, and then so it started all these rumors, and Robert Plant's like, it was actually unnecessarily hurtful that people would say these things, but then again, you're in the public eye. And this is just what happens.
Yeah.
And people are going to start putting all this. And he says, so it's nice that there were people that came up to us and go, look, it's just an unfortunate, awful thing that happened. And it just, these things happen. So
I'm not going to raise a human cry about it or start trying to sue people, because it's only it only adds fuel to an already uncontrollable fire. It doesn't bother me or anyone else. We know exactly what's going on, or what has gone on. There's a situation where you've got the power of the pen at work. Pictures at 11 occupies a more powerful position in Robert's mind at the moment, but one who wonders whether he was seeking conscious change in his approach to recording, especially with his singing, in order to differentiate it from Zeppelin's material.
And that's funny, because when you listen to the singing on that album, at least in my opinion, and maybe people will disagree with me on this, but his singing approach on Pictures at 11 wasn't really all that different than what they'd done on In Through the Outdoor. His voice did not, in my opinion, did not sound that different. As a matter of fact, there are some people that think that Pictures at 11 would probably have been what the next Led Zeppelin album probably would have sounded like.
Oh.
So, and that's a big... I've had this late night discussion with people on that topic many times, but he really had, when you listen to In Through the Outdoor, his voice wasn't, and I started talking about this earlier, it just wasn't the same. You go back to the stuff we talked about that was off of Led Zeppelin 4, like the songs I mentioned, Rock and Roll, Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog. He just wasn't singing that same way anymore. His voice had matured, changed, mellowed, something. And so this was a much more subdued approach to singing, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I really, really did like this album. So anyway.
Was it just his voice?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
was it even like the concepts in the song kind of were more subdued?
Well, definitely that. There were definitely different styles. There was only one song on the album that really, to me, had kind of a Led Zeppelin feel, and it was a song called Slow Dancer. And it did have, you could listen to that and go, yeah, this is has a little bit of that kind of Kashmir feel to it, the Zeppelin sound. The rest of the album just didn't have that. But then again, some people will tell you that neither did In Through the Outdoor. In Through the Outdoor was kind of a departure for them. And so it just didn't, it was just an evolution. It just was just different. It
sounds like their music really kind of like portrayed where they were in growth and life.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it.
On the whole, I want to be more precise and let the melody lines stand out, he asserted. On Burning Down one side.
That's the first song on the album.
I tried to keep the voice really pinched and emphasize the actual melody line without a lot of ad-libbing. Much ad-libbing comes from working on stage a lot. For example, with Zeppelin, if we do Kashmir on stage a few times before we'd recorded, it would have sounded totally different.
That's actually really interesting, because he's saying if we had actually done Kashmir live a bunch of times before recording it, it wouldn't have been the same. That's fascinating, because one of the things that Robert Plant was really good at was the ad-libbing. You go back to a lot of that early stuff and you get to the end of the songs and he just starts, baby, 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 and he just vamping.
Yeah.
And he was really good at it. And I mean, listen to the end of Whole Lot of Love. Listen even to the end of Gallows Pole. You just hear him. He just starts riffing. He starts and I think that's kind of part of his point here. It's like he was trying to get away from all the ad-libbing that he used to do and be more precise, which is actually, I'd never heard him say this because I hadn't read this article before, but that does make sense listening to those songs now. Anyway, it's kind of fascinating.
Nevertheless, Pictures at 11 holds strong appeal for Led Zeppelin fans, but it should also appeal to rock addicts in general. It is of an exceptionally high standard. Burning Down One Side, mystery title, and the mesmerizing Moonlight and Samosa stand out as the most powerful tracks.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but because I think one of the most powerful tracks is Slow Dancer. I think Burning Down One Side is incredible, but they're right about that. That it's like this is really it was a solid album, and I don't know. I wonder how much you watching this appreciate how solid that album was. Because when I first heard it, and I was a young kid too, and I didn't know any different. I didn't get it at first. The more I listen to it, the more I go, this is great.
And then probably the more you age and go through life.
Yeah, now you put on Slow Dancer, and I'm like, dude, that's just killer. and actually, Moonlight and Samosa, these are all great songs. I didn't get it really at first, but this is really spectacular stuff. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Did Plant's brief stage appearance in Munich last April with Foreigner and Jimmy Page fuel his desire to return to the road? Since that last Zeppelin trip to Europe, the only gigging he's done has been with a band called Honeydrippers.
This is so fascinating. By the way, the answer to that question I think is yes, because he basically got on stage, and this was the first time that he and Jimmy Page had played together. And then I think that may have been what kind of kicked this in. But what's really fascinating is that the Honeydrippers is a project that he put together long before any of us had ever heard of it, because he ended up putting an album out by the Honeydrippers.
Oh.
And it was basically just an classic old rock and roll stuff that influenced him.
Oh, that's cool.
And Jimmy Page actually played a little on it. I think Jeff Beck played a little bit on it. And if you bought the album, it just said Honeydrippers Volume 1, and nothing else would tell you who was even on that album. There's one place on there where it says, I think it says produced by Robert Plant. Like his name was on there, very fine print, one place. Other than that, you'd have no idea who was even on the album.
Wow.
Other than you could tell it was Robert Plant's voice. But he had this little side project that he'd been doing for a while called the Honeydrippers, and it was basically just a bunch of old, just rockabilly kind of music. It was really fun. It was great. It was great. Yeah, it was great. It was good stuff too.
Huh.
And they put out the album. I mean, it had this like classic song called "Sea of Love." Do you remember when we met? That's the day I knew you were my pet. It's like this old 50s kind of stuff. And then I have got a thrill. I mean, that's the way the music was. And it was the stuff, again, that influenced him.
Yeah.
I'm being silly, but those were the songs. So, but they were these, he just kind of had this, oh no, it was that one. Have you heard the news? There's good rockin' at midnight. I think that was the other song.
Oh my gosh, it was like gospel.
Yeah, this is what it was like. It was this kind of 50s music that they put together because he wanted to pay homage to the stuff that had influenced him.
Oh, that's way cool.
And that's what this band was.
This was a unit. This was a unit
he formed with his current guitarist, Robbie Blunt, yeah.
This was a unit he formed with his current guitarist, Robbie Blunt.
So Robbie Blunt ended up playing on his solo albums, by the way. So like when we're talking about Pictures at 11, Principle of Moments, Robbie Blunt kind of became his sidekick for all this stuff.
It was
and this is how they started working together.
That they made several low-key appearances on the London, Birmingham club circuit. I'd like to see the next album done before I even contemplate the idea of going out on tour again, Robert explains. Until then, there doesn't seem to be much point. I enjoy what I did with Jimmy and Foreigner, but nowadays I'm not keen on the big gig. I don't think it really does one justice. I go to see quite a lot of bands, and even in an ordinary theater, that people at the back are still missing out. If you're down at the front, it's great, but I suppose it's got to be done because I'd like to expand upon the songs on the LP a lot more.
Okay, now this is really interesting because when he did finally tour, which is on the next album, he did play mega arenas. I saw him on the next album. It was called Principle of Moments, and he played in the big 17,000, big places because he was Robert Plant and he could. And what's interesting about this, I think I mentioned before, Phil Collins had played on that first album.
Yeah.
Well, Phil Collins also played on his second album. And I think this is so fascinating because you know who Phil Collins is.
Yeah.
Super famous rock star in his own right.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was at this point too. He'd been in Genesis. He'd been doing some solo stuff. Then he played drums on Robert Plant's solo, The Principle of Moments. And then when Robert Plant went on tour, guess who played drums on his tour? Phil Collins did the entire tour. And all he did was play drums, which is crazy when you think about
and
it.
what if that must have been like somewhat chill and cool.
But
I mean, like still big, but
when you think, here's the thing that you have to remember with that. Phil Collins, a juggernaut on his own, a big name, everybody knows who he was. But when Robert Plant calls you and says, I want you just to come and do nothing but play drums and go on an entire tour with me, I might mention your name, but we're not doing any of your music. We're doing my music. What does Phil Collins do? Yes, sir. Because you, Robert Plant, you are the real rock star here. No matter how big everybody else is, even Phil Collins knows who the rock star is. And so at that moment, when Phil Collins could be doing his own tours, his own thing, whatever, he just says, yes, sir. He gets behind the drum set. And I saw that tour. And there's Phil Collins playing drums, sitting back there, being a little trooper. Like, dude, it's crazy thinking about that. But again, and Robert Plant, did he play any Led Zeppelin music? No. It was all his solo stuff. And again, it's because why? Why? Because he's Robert Plant. And he can do whatever he wants to do. And we're all going to go. Because he's Robert Plant. And Phil Collins is going to show up and play drums because why? Because he's Robert Plant.
Yeah.
He's Led Zeppelin's singer. Of course you're going to do it. That's the thing. You lose perspective of just how big and just how important they are until you take that context and go, even Phil Collins goes, I will stop whatever I'm doing. I'm going to go play on your record and I'm going to go on your tour because you're Robert Plant.
And do your music.
Yeah.
It's interesting because nowadays that's not the case. You know, for him to be able to do what he wanted to do that maybe a lot of people didn't like or whatever, you know, nowadays that's not. You know, you do what we like. You do what the people like. So
he was just, Robert Plant was just such a legend and he was so important. And here you are again, the context is why I love this channel and doing these things so much, because the context is it's 1982. And 2 years earlier, he's the lead singer for Led Zeppelin. You know, and then Led Zeppelin breaks up and all that stuff. But I mean, he'd gone through that whole decade where Led Zeppelin owned the 70s. Biggest thing in the world. And now here we are a couple years later, and Robert Plant says, "I'm going to go do some solo stuff," and everybody's like, "I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll go with you." Yeah, and that's the beauty, the power of this, you know. And then yeah, it's right. I will carry. What do you want me to do? I'll carry your luggage. You know, I don't care what it is. I just want to be a part of this. And you can see that even a guy like Phil Collins, and Robert Plant could have anybody he wanted. Would have joined him. He was that big and that important at the time. And it gets back to what you were saying earlier at the very beginning of this thing, where it's like,
and he'd be a great date.
Yeah, he was just because he was like the ultimate rock star. Everything about him was just perfect. It was just great, you know. So and he still had that.
Well, and see, I wasn't even
shine.
talking about all of that. I was talking about even after all of that, he still went on to just explore
he was
in
awesome.
Music and explore in life and
there was
other countries.
Yeah, there were
just
some
like this real like everything, man.
Yeah. And he put like a real Renaissance guy.
Yeah, Renaissance guy.
And he did have a couple
man.
albums that were kind of questionable. Like some people look back and go, like Shaken and Stirred. I don't know that anybody, was that the name of the album? I have it. I didn't think it was great. It was okay. Had one song on it I recall that I thought was pretty good. But a lot of his other solo stuff was great. But the thing is, he had established himself and he could just do whatever he wanted to do. And it didn't really matter. We were going to buy it because it was him.
It didn't even matter. We were just going to buy it.
Yeah, it was like, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. Robert Plant put an album out. I got to go buy it. It was just the way it was. He was that big a deal. And we kind of forget just how big a deal he was, you know? It's just the way it was back then. So anyway, I love this stuff. Anyway, thank you for being here and doing this stuff. It's always fun having you. You bring joy and happiness to this, so it's always great.
I just love watching you get so emotional, excited about this stuff.
Also, just a reminder, you're an author. You put out a bunch of books about relationships, which again, I've got one of them back here on the shelf. And so we appreciate you taking the time to be here and do this stuff. Also, we want to thank Digitech for their ongoing support of the channel. You can see their postage back here. They added a pedal to our set recently, which we really appreciate. And so anyway, with that, please follow the channel, like the video, share this with every single person you know, including your grandmother.
I was going to add that line in if you didn't.
Including grandma. She needs to know about this channel. And with that, have yourself a fantastic day.